Hi, team. Just hang tight while we wait for board members to join. Nice. We have three board members. Chairperson, if you want to get started, it's 5:02, and I know others are will join us.
Sure. Yep. We can go ahead and get started. If that's okay.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
I'm
Great.
streaming on YouTube and everything. We're good.
All right. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the September 10th, 2025 Committee of the Whole. Tonight, we have the RICO contract and some policies to talk about, and one other thing that I'm not remembering right now. I'm back on my phone, Ubering my kid around to soccer. So I will go ahead and start with the RICO contract. I'll turn it over to Mr. Pedro Zayas, please.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, board members, Dr. Townsell, and everyone joining us tonight at this Committee of the Whole meeting. This contract is regarding the list of 150 multifunction devices. Christina, do we have the deck? 150 multifunction devices, that is copiers, printers, and scanners in one device. These devices are located at central office and
I'm sorry.
our
Do you not see the deck? I'm sorry. I might be on a delay.
Yeah, do you have the deck?
Yeah, I thought I was screen sharing. Let me just, before you go on, because I know it's good to have a visual. Let me stop and
Yeah,
start.
it was the agenda on the screen.
Okay. How about that?
Yep, there we
Okay.
go. Thank you very much.
Sorry.
So again, it's 150 multifunction devices, including printers, copiers, and scanners in one device. And these 150 devices are located at central office and at our schools. With me tonight is Renee O'Flynn, Operations Manager, Supporting Communications, who has been helping the department keep track of this lease. Uh, this the cost of the total cost is $650,000 per year, and the last time this lease was entered on with the board was in 2019, and it was a 5-year lease ending in 2024. Many of these copiers have just been renewed month to month, and we have 3 of them that will be ending their 5-year lease at the end of this month. So what we're coming here for is to get a renewal for 5 years starting on October 1 for all devices and ending on September 30th of 2030. Again, these devices are the cost, the $650,000 per year includes on-site service and support, all parts and services, and the integration of our paper cut software, as well as installation of card readers on all multifunction devices. This is by far, by the way, the largest contract assigned to the communications office, for your information. Next slide, please. So this contract is competitive because it's priced through the National Association of State Procurement Officials. Again, it's 150 machines located strictly at schools and district offices. All machines compatible with PaperCut. Historically, we have been happy with the response time around operations or problems with the devices. We do expect the RICO representative to be before the board on our Tuesday meeting, this coming Tuesday. We do track the usage to make sure all devices are useful, right, being actually used, and tracking those devices that are not needed. And we also track through PaperCut that the devices are being properly used by everyone in the district, meaning that no device is being extremely overused or used for purposes that should not be, that are not within the scope of Harvard Public Schools business. Next slide, please.
That is the last slide.
Oh, that's the next slide?
Mhm.
Okay, so again, the contract term would be October 1 of this year through September 30th of 2030 for all devices within our schools. If you have any questions, board members, Superintendent Townsend, please.
Thanks, Pedro. I appreciate the presentation. I will turn it over to the board members. Any questions from my fellow board members for Pedro? Mr. Mills?
Yeah, I just want to verify. So this is a 5-year contract and it's 650,000 per year. So that's like 3-point-something million in total, right?
Correct. You can see
And I
here
know
on the
that
slide.
you said that we hopped on through like the state cooperative or something like that. Did we verify that this is like the best deal that we can get for this? I know we didn't go to RFP, but that's a very, very pricey amount there.
Yes, not only that, but changing to another vendor would, it's another cost to consider.
But
But
did we
it-
consider that cost? I mean, I just want to make sure that like we actually looked around as opposed to just renewing this incredibly expensive thing.
Renee, do we have anything? What I can say, Board Member Mills, is that the price has actually been reduced from what we were paying in the past. Renee, I don't know if you have anything to add to Board Member Mills' question. Can't hear you.
You are right. It's hit or miss because you tested the microphone in the beginning and it worked and now it's not. I don't know why. You're not muted. Oh, now you are. No. Maybe put it in the chat and we'll circle back to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my only question though. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Board Member.
We'll make sure we answer that, Mr. Rowe.
Appreciate it.
Great, thank you. Any other questions from board members? Nope. All right. Seeing no hands, I think we'll move on to, Ms. Fortune.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to know if there's, as you renew, do you speak with the schools to ensure that the equipment that they have is adequate for them? For instance, I recall some schools only having color copy, black and white copiers, and they really could have used color copiers. Is there any just kind of liaising back with the end users to make sure that the equipment is appropriate for their needs?
I know Renee is trying. Board Member Fortune, I know that Program Manager Dave Draxel is really in conversations and visits all the tech equipment at every school. Obviously, no device is perfect, and these are very popular devices among teachers, right? Because they need paper for their classrooms, and some of them want color. But Dave Draxel is the person who keeps track of how happy schools are, how adequate the devices are and the volume.
So we will get back to you with that one as well.
Any other questions from board members? Mr. Mills?
Yes, I have one more question now that mostly just because this is, I think, the first time I've seen or at least been aware of the fact that it's like a 5-year contract. But since it's a 5-year contract and we're approving the lease this year, are we then locked into, do we have to do this every single year for the next 5 years? Like if we decide next year that we no longer like it, are we locked in?
Well, is your question, are we locked in or do we have to do this again next year? I think we're locked in.
I mean, I
5-year
understand that we
contract.
have to do this again next year, but if we decide next year that we don't want to approve this, do we then still have to do it anyways?
Well, the term of the contract goes until 2030, so this wouldn't be brought back again next year until it goes to expire and we want to renew. I think what we need to look at is if we want to discontinue, how can we terminate the lease? Because this is a 5-year lease.
Right. No, so I understand that fundamentally, but my point is if the board has anything that's over a specific amount has to come to the board, like are we going to approve $650,000 next year again? Or is it just that we are really approving this 5-year contract in $650,000 increments?
We're approving a 5-year contract.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you very much.
No problem.
Yes, and we're following practice.
We did this 5 years ago. She put in the chat, this happened 5 years ago. So it's just up for renewal. So we wouldn't be, it'll be a line item for the next 5 years coming out the budget.
Right. And just for clarification, I'm not necessarily opposed to this. I just want to double check. Right.
Yeah.
We appreciate it. And I've learned more about copiers than I ever wanted to learn in my life. So thank you for that.
Okay, so it sounds like there's some questions out there that maybe we can follow back up with next or at the meeting on Tuesday then with some answers to. Are there any other questions from board members? All right, seeing no hands. Thank you, Pedro and Renee. Good to see you. And we will move on to the next contract, which I believe is sorry, it fell off my screen. I'm gonna just turn it over to Ms. Hooker because you appear to be the person ready to speak. So the floor is yours, Ms. Hooker.
There you go. Good evening, members of the board, Superintendent Dr. Townsell. I am, and everyone that is here this evening for a committee of the whole. I am here today bringing to us acceptance and funds and a contract approval for the Connecticut State Department of Education Family Resource Center funding. Next slide, please. So Family Resource Centers, or FRCs, which I'll continue to use moving forward, were part of the national movement to promote the importance of early childhood and its links to school achievement. This was established back in 1988, and for approximately 27 years, the Connecticut State Department of Education has granted funds for FRC's programs at Hartford Public Schools. These programs are designed to support and promote comprehensive, integrated, and community-based systems for our families and children development. The model is based on Schools of 21st Century concept developed by Dr. Edward Singler of Yale University. The model has 7 service components that they focus on, which is around school age childcare. They provide trainings to families. They provide youth development services. There is adult education, quality early care and education, resource and referrals for families and communities. Hartford Public Schools has a total of 5 FRCs. which mean 5 different schools have FRCs or family resource centers located in them. The schools that we have these centers operate in are being, the service is being provided by 2 community-based organizations, which is The Village, who is stationed at Burns, Rosson, Sand, and Wish. And then we have the Hispanic Health Council, which is stationed at Maria Sanchez. The way this process work is that the Connecticut State Department of Education approved funding for these services to continue. There is an application that gets submitted each year. And through the submission of that particular application, I am here today to seek approval of the funds, which were approved by the state, for us to be able to facilitate contracts with the community-based organizations that are listed here. Next slide, please. There is a reporting mechanism that is in place for the service. I'm going to focus on what the full report entails, and but you're able to see the different areas or services that were provided at the different schools that I listed, the 5 schools. So the report comes to us on a monthly basis, and it comes to the Welcome Center. And we then provide this information to the State Department of Education, and we provide them with an end-of-year report as well. The full report give information around services or family engagement service, early care and education services that were provided, school-age childcare programs, any trainings that families had the opportunity to participate in, any resources and referrals that were also provided to the families. Families have access to adult education programs and services, so we want to make sure that we share that out, that any youth development programs or services that are offered. The services are not only open for our students and the families of our schools, but it is open to the community that surrounds the schools where it's located. Next slide. I think that's my last slide. Oh, no. So I am here today to for seeking approval of the funds, as well as to do a contract continuation for Family Resource Center in 5 schools in the amount of $556,815. I listed the 5 resource centers, which provide a variety of services such as home visits, playgrounds, adult education, referrals for services. The 2 organizations that would be awarded the contract would be Hispanic Health Council, which will continue to operate a site at Maria Sanchez. And the contract for that particular organization will be in the amount of $109,614. And then The Village, who operate 4 sites at Burns, Sand, Wish, and Rosson. And the contract for that particular organization would be in the amount of $438,458 with 40 cents for the total amount of $556,815. The term of the contract would be for our fiscal year, which would be July 1st, 2025 to June 30th, 2026. The contract reports and services would be managed through the Welcome Center, which is a subset office and services under the Office of Strategic Partnerships and Fund Development at the district. And this would be aligned with our Engage in Family and Community Partnerships priority that we have as a district. At this time, I would be open to any questions that you may have.
Jen asked me to chair while she stepped away, I guess. So do any other board members have any questions? right, I guess seeing none, thank you very much. And we'll move to the next item, Christina.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that would be Raptor Technologies, and we have Ed Wilson on the call for this. Attorney Ed Wilson.
Good afternoon, everyone. So this is the for the contract continuation approval for Raptor Technologies. Raptor is the mechanism in which we screen visitors and volunteers that work in our schools, or volunteer in our schools or access our buildings. Christina, can we hit the next slide? The contract amount is $63,675. The deliverables here is for the visitor management, as well as our volunteer management license and Raptor volunteer screens. The contract term is for 1 year. I'll note that we have utilized Raptor since 2020. Next slide, please. As indicated earlier, those are the three things we utilize it for: visitor management, volunteer management, and the volunteer screening. Just by way of background in terms of what Raptor is, Raptor was founded in 2002 with the mission to protect every child, every school, every day. It's a school safety partner that services approximately 60,000 schools in 55 countries, utilized by more than 5,300 school districts in the United States, has been utilized in this school district since 2020. And the products include visitor management and volunteer management platforms. Now, specific to the visitor management portion, it's the security system that screens visitors by scanning their IDs and checking them against a national sex offender database. It also prints visitor badges and tracks who's on campus to enhance our safety of our school district. This system generally helps us identify individuals who should not have access to our schools and keeps a log of approved guests, providing alerts if a match is found. In terms of the visitor management platform, it includes ID scanning that happens typically at the security entry point of our school buildings, where the visitors present the government issued ID, which is scanned by the Raptor system. It's scanned across a database check, which checks the information provided on that issued ID with their name and date of birth against the national database of sexual offenders. If it gives us an alert if a match is found. It also has the ability to print the visitor badges and the logging component that I indicated earlier. On the volunteer management side, we utilize this software platform to streamline our volunteer process through the online application and background checks that screens our applicants that seek to volunteer in our schools against that sexual offender database. Applications are reviewed and approved on the platform. And the hours that the volunteer works are automatically tracked when the volunteer signs in and out of a building. Now, this kind of further unpacks our volunteer screening process, and that every volunteer must be screened as part of the application process to volunteer at Hartford Public Schools. In terms of the way this contract is set up, the screens are pre-purchased. To unpack that a little bit more, there's a flat rate of $6 per screen. For the pre-purchase for this particular contract is 1,500 screens at a total cost of $9,000, which is embedded in that $63,000 cost that I indicated earlier, which is the total cost of the contract. To kind of give some perspective there, in terms of expected usage, since August 2025, we have received over 400 volunteer applications. Next slide. Total cost. $63,675. Broken down, that is $31,275 for the visitor management portion, that access fee. For the Raptor volunteer management license, that's a cost of $23,400. And for the volunteer screens prepaid that I just spoke to, that's the $9,000 for the total cost for the $63,675. Next slide, please. And with that, I'll ask if there's any questions.
Thanks, Mr. Mills, for taking over for me for a moment. And thank you, Mr. Wilson, for your presentation. Mr. Seliger.
Thank you so much. And thank you for the presentation. One question that I have is, should someone come into the school and, you know, the Raptor, you know, is I guess set off, or what is the notification process with regards to an alert, or, you know, some type, if there's a red flag?
In terms of if the person is told?
If the person is in the building, and say you know, hypothetically, a person comes in, the security officer swipes their license, and it's flagged. Well, like, what is are they just told? Are they told to leave the building? Is there a lock? Like, what is the notification? Are families notified? Are people throughout the building notified? How does that work?
Okay. So this would happen at the entry point. So this person hasn't got access to the building. So the individual, we get the notification in real time when we run the ID. So that person will be stopped at the entry point, not allowed access to the building. Told of the reason for the hit, and administration will be notified.
Okay, thank you. And also, another follow-up question. If there is a language barrier, if you will, how will that work? Will you call a language line, or will you get someone, like, what's the protocol for that?
So that's okay. At the protocol for a language barrier, we could utilize the language line. I believe we have utilized the language line. I guess it would largely depend on what language we're talking about. If there's if we could, at our entry point, if there's a staff member that speaks the language, that we can communicate to them in that particular language. But I would say ideally we could utilize the language line for any language barrier. To speak to specifically, we don't have a policy on point that's connected to how to handle a language barrier at the Raptor screening point. We would just kind of lean on our existing policies as to how we handle communicating with someone that doesn't speak the language that they might be encountered with at the entry point of the building. And so I would think the language line would be the most efficient way to do that, to the extent that we don't have a staff member at that entry point that speaks that language.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Brody.
Thank you. Wouldn't it be the same protocol for if it had nothing to do with the red flag on their ID, just how we communicate at the security station when there's a language barrier? It would be the same protocol, correct?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
No. So we communicate with families because we just had the presentation about, you know, the language line contract. So what was described there on how we communicate with parents when there's a language barrier, the same way we would communicate with them if they're just a visitor in the building for any reason, is the same way we would communicate with them if it's a red flag on their ID. As far as a language barrier.
Yeah, I would want to make sure we're being consistent across, what policies we have in place. So I don't know if that answers your question. So to the extent, so how we're handling it at that entryway, if there's a language barrier, the language line can be utilized.
Yeah, regardless of circumstance, whatever the standard is when we're talking to someone who has a language different from, the person at the security desk, we follow that. Like there's not a special protocol for if your ID comes back that we can't let you gain entry. That's not a special language protocol for that. That's what I'm saying. Are we consistent just based on a language barrier?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? All right. Thank you, Mr. Wilson, for that presentation. And we will move on to the next part of our agenda, which I believe are policies. Or
Yes.
Raptor, which we just did, right?
We
Chris?
just wrapped there. So we're on to the second reading reviews, which they were brought for a first reading at the last board meeting, and we just like to quickly check in. And I'll say I have not heard any feedback from any board members, any community members on those first readings, which is the opioid overdose prevention, student health services, and health assessments. But if any board member has anything to say right now, any questions or comments before we bring it back for a second reading.
These say school volunteers, student sports.
Oh, that's next.
session
That's the
and
next agenda
setting.
item.
Oh, okay. Oh, I'm sorry. I see it now. Sorry. Okay.
My screen is slow, is delayed. I'm sorry.
No, I was delayed. I'm sorry.
Okay.
That was totally on me. My apologies.
Mhm.
All right. So any comments or questions from board members on these policies that we have previously discussed? Yeah. Seeing no hands, now we can move on. Oh, no. Mr. Stillinger.
Thank you so much. Can you just do a little recap on the school volunteers? Oh, you were talking about these before going on to the school volunteers.
Correct.
Oh, okay.
Correct.
Never mind. I'm sorry. I just want to talk about that.
That's my fault. I'm sorry, Principals. Okay, so we'll move on to school volunteers first reading. Is that Mr. Wilson?
That is Mr. Attorney Ed Wilson.
All
Yes.
right, Mr. Wilson, floor is yours.
Christina, can we see our screen on this?
Yes.
So this policy, there's an edit. I believe this policy was last in front of the board in 2004. We've tagged in Ms. Janelle Hooker that led on the edits to this particular policy. So I'll turn it over to her to speak to the edits that we made to update this policy.
Thank you so much, Attorney Wilson. So as you can see, today I'm here to share and or present some recommendations to the current policy that we have, which not necessarily shares information on a particular process or way to regulate or do our volunteer services, which is how we're operating right now. So the suggestion or the recommendation is for volunteers to work under the supervision of district staff and are held to the same standards of conduct as employees, including adherence to all board policies, particularly those concerning student confidentiality. We're also bringing as a recommendation that the superintendent shall establish procedures for securing and screening our volunteers. And we provide 3 goals for our volunteer program, which would be to support student achievement, to promote community involvement, and to support student enrichment experiences. And here you can also see the references that we will be following as our guide based on CABE are listed, all the different statutes that we would want to be able to uphold to. Today, I'm also presenting to you as part of our first reading our current processes or practice that we have in place to support our volunteer screening process here at the district. So what you're seeing in screen is what we're currently doing as a team. So all of our volunteers do complete an application process. The application is listed on our website. Building principals and or their designees are the ones that oversee what volunteers do within their buildings, including their recruitment, the placement, supervision, training. The screening of volunteers is conducted by designated district staff, which is currently under my supervision here at the district in collaboration with, I have one staff that help facilitate this process due to the confidentiality nature of the background portion of the volunteer screening. The screening of volunteers have the following steps. Volunteers may come from a diverse background. We're looking at volunteers to be over the age of 18. We're really just looking at individuals that genuinely have an interest to contribute their time and talent to provide support within our school community. The areas that we look at for disqualifying volunteers are individuals that are listed on the Connecticut Sex Offender Registry. We're also following our Department of Children and Families Child Abuse and Neglect Registry, as we are mandated reporters. And we're looking at individuals convicted of offenses that pose a risk to student safety. The screening process that we have is that once the application is completed, such application does warrant or provide us with authorization for us to conduct a criminal background screening. The screening is conducted using a screening system, which currently is the Raptor system that we just heard Attorney Wilson speak to. And through that screening, we do get information. We do get a variety of information based on the screening, which is why I said the review of this information is limited to one staff and myself due to the confidential information that comes up. The first step, I should say. We do look at things that are considered misdemeanors and not necessarily would have a bearing on disqualifying individuals like, traffic infractions that are ending in no. We want to also ensure that I share here at this hearing that we do follow statutory period, which in the state of Connecticut is a period of 5 years, meaning that if things occur and it's more than 5 years, we are following that particular process or that particular practice on the determining factor. We're also following any federal or state law to ensure that we're following those guidelines. And we are not, if we have situations that are coming up that need additional review, we are bringing this information to have it as a discussion with either the Director of Security or as a district, we have a district safety team where we also bring these situations for further review and acknowledgement of information that comes up from the background check. And that's for situations that are extreme or have like a higher level of needing additional supervision for a decision to be made. On the recruitment process, volunteers are recruited or coming from parents telling other parents, parents organizations have also collaborated or partnered with the district, retired education, senior groups, community business, local volunteer centers, colleges and universities. And the way the role is defined is that volunteers serve in a supportive capacity under the supervision of school staff. They are not substitutes for certified personnel, and they do not have access to confidential student records as part of our definition for volunteers. If you scroll down a little more, please, Ms. Santiago. During our selection and placement and supervision, we definitely are working in conjunction with our school administrators for the placement of what volunteers are doing within the building and based on the school needs. Volunteers are assigned only with the consent and supervision of staff members. And we want to make sure that we are ensuring that volunteers understand to maintain a have professionalism as part of the work that they're doing within our school and with our students. Volunteers must sign in at the main office every time they come to the building. Volunteer must wear a name tag that describes that they are a volunteer for the day. We do have them complete a registration form and waiver on an annual basis so that if things happen, we're able to catch that. If they're not disqualified, there's no information disqualifying, they are able to continue with the assigned duties that they had from the previous year. Volunteers may be denied or removed based on behaviors or inappropriate behaviors that are detrimental to the school environment. And we also ensure that there is an orientation provided only after a volunteer was screened and is called to serve. There is an orientation that is provided to them, and they receive general guidance and encouraged to contact the schools around available opportunities for them to volunteer, and expectations are communicated by the supervising staff at the school to the volunteer individuals. Let me see, am I missing anything else in terms of our training? I do believe that with this being our first reading, it does put us in a position to really review and have a discussion on the edits that are being recommended to the policy, to get your input on that. That would be the part of my presentation and open for any discussion or conversation or questions.
Great, thanks, Ms. Hooker. Any questions? Mr. Walker?
Thank you, Chair. Thank Director Hooker. Appreciate the presentation. I have a couple areas of question. One is the opening statement that volunteers are subject to all adherence to all board policies. It feels too broad to me. Staff has unique access to data information and access to students that that's why they have to adhere to all board policies. The way it's written, it looks like volunteers would have to be aware and somehow make themselves cognizant of what all the board policies are. Just my first blush look at this, it would seem better if the volunteers, as part of orientation, were directed to which policies they must adhere to from a staff member. Like a staff member would look at the volunteers, see what they're doing, and then kind of lay out to them the policies that are relevant that they need to be aware of, as opposed to saying volunteers have to be aware of all policies and all times and that kind of thing. It feels like my concern is that it will place a burden on volunteers to have to know all the policies of the board. So that's just a feedback. I had one other comment, and that comment is around the annual reapplication. I want to understand that a little bit. The only question I have here is in circumstances where in schools you may have parents or other community people who are operating in continual service with the school. And, you know, if they're operating in a kind of a continual service model, I'm not sure that they have to do. I'm trying to figure out, is there some kind of shortened process, or if you're in continual service, why are you reapplying? It's like teachers don't reapply every year. People in continual service don't routinely just reapply, right? I could see do a spot check to make sure something hasn't changed in a person's status. I could see that happening. But if nothing's changed in the life of the person, why can't their, last year application be pulled up and checked to see if anything happened, background or something like that? But help me understand what's the value of having them actually just reapply every year if they're in continual service?
So the reason the practice that we have in place is all of the applications end or expired on June 30th. It allows for all applications that come in expire on June 30th, and it allows for us to ensure that we are not only revisiting individuals that may or may not be interested, right? Because you may have individuals that they were only interested because their child was a part of that school or that building. Now they moved to another building, or their child graduated, so they no longer are interested. Or for us to also have a handle on situations happening, for us to then pre-screen again if anything occur once they apply. We don't get individuals applying all the time on July 1st. We get individuals, or the bulk of applications start coming in the month of September, once schools are like up and running. Is when we get individuals sharing that they're now interested to becoming volunteers. And that's the current practice that we have, that's the rationale behind it.
Okay. So essentially you're saying your team makes sure everyone knows June 30th, whatever you're doing, it ends. And so, as long as that's understood.
Once they get approved, they get a notification. And the system does allow them to know that once they're approved, it gives them the life of their approval process. And it tells them that they are now able to reach out to the school to get information around what positions or what expectations that particular school have, for them to be able to then provide the service or volunteer at school.
Well, thank you. So I guess in summary, then my comments were just to see if it makes sense for your team to talk about volunteers having to adhere to all applicable policies, where the local staff persons overseeing them would dictate, like, here are the applicable policies that you have to follow based on whatever they're doing. So that's the only thing that I would say, at least just to consider for your team. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Walker. Real quick question before I go to Ms. Darcel Ledger. So just to clarify, we're just voting on the actual policy, which is the first page, right? And the regs are just, you're just sharing so that we have an idea of what
I'm presenting to you.
Okay.
Yep, I am suggesting and then presenting so you know what it is that we currently have in place. Yes.
Okay, terrific. All right, thank you. Ms. Darcel Ledger.
Thank you so much. And thank you for the presentation so far. The question I have a few questions actually. One question is, how have you been getting the application or the information to parents or prospective volunteers? Because some of the feedback that I get is that parents aren't allowed in the buildings, and they'd like to volunteer and they're not able to. So I want to see if we can kind of change that culture, if that actually does exist. And I'm hoping that the language in this this policy will kind of facilitate that. So that's my first question. The next question is, the second question or part of that question is, how long is this whole process with regards to getting approved to be a volunteer? Because there are certain things like Read Across America, or there may be a parent who they happen to have a day off from school, from work, or, you know, they may have a relative who's in town visiting and would like to come and read to, you know, a child in school. So does this apply to, you know, for the whole year? Does this apply to a continuation of, you know, being a volunteer, or a one-time event, something like that?
Thank you for your question. So on the first portion of the question on how they get information, a few things. The system itself provides, once you submit, the system itself will provide an email back to the individuals that submitted the application, right, to the email that they put in the application, letting them know that they have been approved and that they can now reach out to the school. So that's one systematic thing that is already in place that the system do. In terms of the comments around not being able to have access into the school or being volunteers, I have heard that as well. And we have done strategies such as partnering with organizations like Hartford Parents University, doing an MOU that did allow for that organization to come in and provide some support around their bottom-up approach, identify a group of 8 schools, reach out to parents. They did trainings that were able, my office was able to assist with the training around the volunteer and the volunteer expectation, and work directly with those principals to identify the top 5 areas that parents could come in and do. So that allow us to have a total of, don't quote me on the number, I can have Ms. Santiago get back to you, but it was around 28 to 32 individuals that got certified, because it became a class, that certified that they are knowledgeable on volunteering, the processes and protocols in those schools, to recruit additional parents within their school community to be able to then bring them in and go through that particular process. So that's another avenue that we've done. We have made sure that on our website, we share where they can access the information on our family learning sessions. We want to make sure that we also are sharing here opportunities for you to be a part of the school. So that for that first question. For the second question on the time, how much time does it take? So the screening process all depends on the information that's coming back or the background. You can get background information that comes back within a couple of hours, and you can get other background information that take a little longer, depending on the situation and the individual. So when parents are reaching out to the office, I am typically giving them a heads up on, because we have gotten phone calls around, I completed the volunteer application and there is a field trip that I'm looking to be a chaperone, and the school don't have my name on the list of volunteers. And when we go into the system, the application was completed 10 minutes before the phone call, or was completed that morning that they called to be a chaperone. So I have had those calls to explain to the parents or individuals, because sometimes it's grandparents, auntie, you know, other people, that because the application was just we had just received the application at and its timestamp, and when it comes in, that we would need for them to allow us at least 2 days to be able to get the information back and process. And I go through the conversation of parents not understanding why it couldn't just be something that on the phone I can give approval and explain. So I'm hoping that those respond to the questions that you posed.
Yes, thank you. And another thing is I'm hoping that, with the parents who, English is not their primary language, that there is some type of like parent education, if you will, around, volunteering and the importance of volunteering. And I'm sure that, the parents know that there is the importance of volunteer. They know of the importance of being there and being present, but they might not know, maybe, one language that is, very present may know, but there may be another language. So I'm hoping that we can kind of, be very inclusive and, be aware of, and also be intentional on, communicating that information to family members and helping them with the application, process for applying to be a volunteer as well.
Yes, ma'am.
And
Noted. And the FCSSPs are an integral part on that portion that you just said in assisting families and completing the application. The Welcome Center has also assisted families in doing that as well. But
okay.
noted on making sure that we are intentional on how we're communicating this to all of our families.
Okay, and I have one more question. What about individuals who are, this is actually a thing, who volunteer virtually? So, for example, if they are, gonna come on Zoom and read a story to students and the students can see them, they might not be able to see the students, but they're not in the actual physical place, but they're actually quote unquote volunteering. Would they have to go through that process as well?
That is an excellent question that, believe it or not, I don't have an answer for you because I have not had that particular case. So can you please allow me to think through, revisit your question, and then make sure that through Ms. Santiago an answer goes back out?
Okay. And
I would like to consider that, because honestly, I wrote it down. I was like, huh, I want to be able to really think through before I'm just responding.
Yeah, it's something to think about because, with AI and with, technology, and STEAM being at the forefront now, we have to just, continue to be innovative and kind of like, get ready and stay ready so we don't have to get ready.
Noted. Great point.
Ms. Brody?
Thank you. So I just hope as this policy develops that we're operating in the spirit of absolutely want parents, community members, whomever to volunteer, but definitely child safety over anything else. That's so I appreciate it. But one thing I think should be added, because one year I signed up to volunteer, I think, because you have to pick a school, you have to do some things. I think it would be better on our part to notify the school, even if we're telling the person, contact the school. I think we should be giving the information to the school and say, this is someone who chose your school to volunteer at. This is their contact information, their background check came back, and have it be a two-way street. Because maybe I didn't read the part where it said, I just thought somebody's going to do my background. I picked the schools, so somebody's going to tell these schools and give them my information. That's how I took it, but it was not that. Because I was instead saying to the school, have y'all, I signed up, so I think we could put that in there. I think that would be awesome to include notifying the school.
So I'm hoping that my answer will be pleasing to you. One piece that we did add to our FCSSP training and expectation for this year is that twice a week because the SBSSP last year, we gave them access to be able to see the report of the list that is generated of volunteers that are assigned to each school that already got approved and assigned. And I think it was still missing that piece of the administration and the front office knowing that information, right? Because they get busy and everybody gets busy and, just checking on that. It only happened once a parent get there to say that they want to volunteer. This year, we added for them twice a week to be able to print out the list and provide it to the front office so that they have that information. And we're doing that week after week, twice a week, so they can see what's the most recent information on volunteers assigned to the particular school. So we did add that practice this year.
Awesome.
To
That-
FCSSPs, yes, ma'am.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Ms. Hooker. I don't see any other hands.
One more.
No, my hand's there. It's just blending into
Oh,
that
I'm
weird.
sorry, Mr. Mills. I don't
I'm
it's in
sorry.
your
I
pic-
made my
looks like
hand
part of
more
your picture.
brown. I know I made my hand
Sorry.
more brown to be realistic, but I think that's causing some issues. So maybe I'll change it back to yellow, which is not a real thing. No, I know it's my fault. But so either way, I guess I think that I'm having a little bit of confusion because one, I don't have kids. I'm not up in schools as frequently as a lot of other people. So the idea of volunteering has a couple different meanings in my head. And then you mentioned chaperoning, and I was like, oh yes, we are also talking about that. So I see that like we crossed out that section there about like regular types of volunteering in the district. And similarly to how we have it later on in this policy, how it says volunteers may be recruited through blah, blah, blah. I think there might be some use in putting back something along those lines of like regular volunteers in the district may include, but not limited to, chaperones, library, blah, blah, blah. So I just think that a little bit more clarity on exactly what constitutes a volunteer might be helpful.
Noted.
Also, if someone is denied, do they have a chance to like appeal or talk to somebody?
So thank you for bringing up.
I
thank you for bringing
recognize
up
that the whole
question.
point is like student safety, but I also feel like we might want to have that as an option.
Thank you for bringing up that question, because that we did receive an email earlier today around some areas of growth for us to consider in the policy. And I was pleased to see that that was the one area that I'm like, okay, what is it that we have in place? And then having a discussion with the one staff that I have that helped me facilitate that, she reminded me of, we have had 3 instances of appeals where we were able to bring them to discussions with the director of safety. One of them we actually brought to the safety team or the safety committee to review, which that particular one did get denied even at the appeal process because of the information that had come up. We really had to think about the safety of the larger school community. But then on the other instances, one of them, the individual that reached back out to say, because the email would say you got denied or whatever, that reached back out to find out why, and was able to share its concern and reach back out. We did notice that there was a similar name, last name, like the information was one of those common similar name, and the information that came up was not necessarily for that individual. And we were able to work with the actual background organization and have them be able to revisit, look at social security, do the whole 9 for that individual to be able to get clear. So that's one instance that we did have that situation. And then we did have the third situation that we had was a particular student that was that had a particular disability that the principal was the one that reached out to say that particular student needed that parent to be with the student during that trip that they were doing. And for that particular case, it was approved only for that trip. Like when you do the approval, you're able to get it for the year, right? But for the situation that was occurring and what had come up was not necessarily to the detriment of the larger community that was going on the field trip, and the principal was able to explain the extent of the disability and what was needed if they were going to be taking that child. So those are the three. We have had three instances that have been appeals had come through, and one of them was not approved. One was denied, even with the appeal process.
I guess just as a follow-up, and I guess this might not even be for you, but for whoever legal counsel is on the call. If we have an appeals process, even if it's not one that's widely used, do we not need to put it in somewhere that there's an opportunity to appeal to somebody? And maybe that doesn't need to be answered now, but I feel like if we have that, it should be noted, even if it's not widely used. So that's it. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Tatum.
Thank you. I appreciate the work that's being done on this policy. My question is just about the process from here for further discussion and perhaps revision of this policy before it's approved. My understanding is that this will be brought as a first reading at Tuesday's regular board meeting, where there'll be a chance to engage in some discussion there and hear any input from the public if someone notices that it's on the agenda. It would then go back to a policy committee meeting, is that correct? Before coming back to the board?
That is correct.
Okay. And it's that would be the most likely point where revisions could be presented and worked on?
Correct. And decided if it's going to move forward for the second reading or if it needs more work. Yes.
Could just process wise, if changes are made between the first reading and second reading, like does it need to be reintroduced as a first reading if changes are made, or can the second reading be different from the first reading?
The second reading can absolutely be different. That's the point, to get that feedback and make sure we hear from all stakeholders.
Okay, so this would be voted on theoretically, not this coming Tuesday's meeting, but the October regular board meeting, assuming that revisions happen at that policy committee meeting.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Now seeing no other hands, I looked twice to make sure. Ms. Hooker, did you say you had one more policy?
Nope, that is it for me.
That's it?
For me.
Okay. For you, okay. Thank you for your presentation. Moving on to student sports concussions. Is that Mr. Wilson?
Yes. So this is a brand new policy. So you're not seeing a red line on this particular policy, as this is a CABE recommended policy. I'll share that in terms of the process, is a process that we have been following. See the reference in the actual guidance in regards to updates in state law with dates for 2010 in terms of required training for coaches that are working with students in terms of recognizing signs and symptoms of concussions, as well as updates legally in July 2015. As a practice, as a school district in practice, we've been following that, but we didn't have a policy that articulated and mirrored those updates in state law. So this is us actually memorializing the way we do this work, the training that's required for our staff that works with students in terms of recognizing concussions, what is required if a child is having symptoms of concussion in terms of sitting out, how that child gets back to physical activity in terms of medical clearance. and as well as authorization forms. We have tagged in experts, subject matter experts in our school district to work with us on completing this student sports concussion policy. They're on the call. And with that, to kind of give more of a broad brush overview, I'll turn it over to Ms. Heidi Smith.
Good evening, everyone. As he discussed that this is something that we've already had into effect. We've been following the state protocols since they've been established in 2010. And as they change things or as new policy are added, we have kept up with everything in the district, with our parents, with our coaches, with our students, and our administrators that are working with the student athletes. So everything and everything that we do in here, I can give you a quick overview of what we do. We do have Final Forms as our online platform, and on our online platform, we do have the concussion information on there for every parent. There's a ton of links in there for them to go to with extended information and from videos. They have to fill that out. They have to read it and sign off on it every single year before their student athlete is able to participate. Our coaches have to do the same thing. And in addition to, before they get their coaching certification, they have to take a 3-hour online course on concussions. And every year they do the read as a reminder with the refresher on everything that they need to know about concussions. And after 5 years, they have to take the refresher. That is another online course in order to continue coaching. And also our student athletes have to read through all of this before they can sign off on Final Forms in order to be eligible to play as well. And we work with CIAC with this, who works with the State Department that gets all of their documentations approved by the State Department, so that anything that we are using are in conjunction with the state law with concussion protocol.
Great, thanks, Heidi. Mr. Walker.
Thank you, Chair. Heidi, thank you. My question is somewhat basic. I looked at the policy. The policy is fantastic. It looks like it's already administered by the State Board of Education. Looks like every participant body that's part of the CIAC would have to, comply with all the requirements to actually be a team that's a member of the organization. So I'm left wondering, is there a reason that the district per se is incorporated into our policies? Because I can't imagine us doing anything other than say, comply with the state, comply with the CIAC. So is there something special that happens because we have it versus just telling the folks? Like right now, they already do that. Why are we adding it to ours, I guess, is my question.
Great question, Board Member Walker. So this is I have a couple responses. I guess we might have individuals who might not go to the state website to kind of figure out what the state is requiring as to how we should handle that as a school district. So I'd say for ease of reference, it's a recommended policy by CAVE that school districts should have. So while, to your point, we're following what the CIC tells us to do, we're following the state law and regulations. Not unlike some of our other policies where we're just basically telling you, hey, this is what the law requires us to do, and this is what we've incorporated that we're going to do as a school district. I would say it's consistent on that level, as well as for ease of reference for our families, our staff, and our school communities, so they know without having to go to some other forum how we're handling this as a school district.
Through the chair, thank you, Attorney Wilson. That actually, that was a relevant response. I get the ease of people being able to find it and put their hands on it, even if it's direct recitation. So, okay, if that's why we're doing it, then I get the motivation. Thank you.
Other questions from board members? Mr. Seliger.
Thank you. It's more of a response or just a comment than a question, but I just want to say, as a parent of an athlete and athletes who come through, my family, we can't talk about concussions enough. because the more we talk about it, the more awareness it brings so that folks can, you know, really look out for those. That's all I wanted to say.
All right. Seeing no other hands, thank you, Heidi, and thank you, Ed. And, oh, I bet you're up for the next one too. All right. So the next one is setting cardiac arrest prevention. I'll turn it back over to either Mr. Wilson or Ms. Schmidt.
Right. So this similar to the last policy. This is a CABE recommended policy that school districts should have. Similarly, when we talk about the practice that's outlined here, it's something that we've been in alignment with. But we wanted to make sure we were memorializing how we were handling this in policy. And similar to the last one, we have subject matter experts on the call to include our district nurse, our medical director, and Ms. Smith to speak a bit about this particular policy. How do you want to start?
Yeah, I'll start on the athletic side of it. So very similar to our concussion protocols, they are also forms that the CIC had put together with, again, tons of links with other additional information if anybody wants to read further into it. Our coaches, our parents, and our student athletes have to fill all of this out, sign off on it before they're able to participate in athletics. And I'll take it a step further that we do, because we do take this really serious with recent, I'm sure you heard of recent tragedies that have happened, you know, even here in Connecticut with athletes passing away due to sudden cardiac arrest on the field. We are now, and I'm almost 100% compliant with having AED machines in every single medical kit for anybody that is outside the building where they don't have easy access to getting to one, just in case they happen to get locked out or the door, they can't find the custodian to get in to get the AED machine, including my middle school programs. So we have AED machines, and all of the coaches are certified in how to operate an AED machine. So we feel as though that we've taken it really serious with a step further, again, having the devices available on the field for practices and games, and they'll travel with them when they need those as well. The only ones that are not in the med kits are when they're inside the building, volleyball, basketball, because they have the in-house AED machines, which I also did another walkthrough with the schools to make sure that they have access to it at any given time during their practices and or games.
Great, thank you so much. Any questions from fellow board members? Mr. Walker?
Yeah, I guess I want to lift this up. That what I want to lift up. The policy is great, Heidi. Thank you, and Attorney Wilson. For the previous policy, I think board member Darcel Ledger said we can't talk about it enough. What I would like to ask for your consideration here is to add a practice that's not in the policy, but really into practice to continually make athletes aware of the warning signs. I think the tragedies that we find on this, there was a story recently of it only came up because the athlete was the son of a former NFL player. So obviously there's a little notoriety to that. But he was a soccer player and had symptoms, kind of, shrugged, talked about it a little bit, and promptly died, right, in his dorm room, off the field and whatnot. And so it left me realizing that a lot of student athletes really aren't aware of how significant the warning signs are, and that they themselves may be their best advocate if they really understand how to respond when the warning signs are imminent. The way the policy is written right now is kind of telling the adults in their life that, hey, you need to monitor, and if a student has A, B, and C, prevent them from performing, which I think is true. I'd like for your consideration to really try to engage the athletes to get them to be aware and to be their own advocate in this space. And that's the only thing I would consider adding to this or to your practice.
Thanks, Mr. Walker. Any other questions, comments?
I have a comment. Thank you so much for that comment, Mr. Walker. I believe that our athletes do sign off on that training that includes signs and symptoms of sudden cardiac death. Heidi, am I correct?
Yes, you are correct.
Okay, before every season. So we try to, they're mandated to sign off that they're aware of those signs and symptoms, but it's a great point.
Right. To just keep instilling it into them.
Seeing no other hands raised, thank you again, Mr. Wilson and Ms. Schmidt, for your presentation tonight. And with that, I think now that was the last thing on the agenda. Am I right, Christina? All
So,
right.
yes, you're correct.
All right, excellent. With 10 minutes to spare to make up for Monday. Thank you so much for joining us.
Have a great night,
evening.
guys.
Glad you all joined us. And with that,